So today's session will really focus on how to get the most out of Google Slides. The session idea really came from just some concerns that we had received from parents and students and teachers and principals about like slides being deleted or missing or blank. So we thought that it would be best, and Hannah is joining me today. So I appreciate her being here for us to kind of look at some tips or tricks for ways to kind of create Google Slides that kind of help limit the option of students deleting content off of the slides. We're going to talk about like making how to turn PDFs into editable documents that we can then put on Google Slides, and then looking at that version history option that's available in Google. So sometimes if we can't figure out exactly what happened or why, that version history will be very helpful in us determining, being able to provide our students and our parents with some insight on why things don't look exactly the way they should look. So the first thing that we always like to review in our session, if you have not joined any of our Lunch and Learn sessions, I'm going to ask that you go ahead, log into Schoology and join my Test Schoology course. And that course number is down here at the bottom of the slide. And I have them on most of all of our slides, just in case as we get further down the line. We'll also copy and paste the course code into the chat so that if you need it, for future reference, you can go there. But we are going to spend some time interacting as students today, and so I think this will be helpful to us. As a reminder, even though we are winding down, we are still offering our Lunch and Learn sessions. Let me go back and reiterate, like this session will primarily be, if anybody wants to stay, they're welcome to join, but it's primarily for 3-5 teachers, especially if they're using the Google Drive assignments tool, or if they're thinking of ways that they want to make PDFs editable for students to be able to participate. So if you're a K-2 teacher, you are more than welcome to stay, but you don't have to, because we'll spend a lot of time doing things in Schoology that you may not normally do because you're working in Seesaw with your students. Our Lunch and Learn for today, for 3-5 or 3-8, is to, we're doing Edpuzzle. How to use the tool Edpuzzle for direct instruction, and went away from me. So for those of you who have not registered that want to register, you have about 49 minutes to register. We usually close down the form at 10. And then we also are going to post previous Lunch and Learn sessions on the e-learning website. So just as a quick review, our session outlined turning a PDF into an editable document, adding images as a background on Google Slides, and then accessing version history to check for discrepancies. And if you, again, if you have not joined the course, please log into Schoology and join that course code right now. All right, so before we get into the how-tos, let's talk about what are some problems that you're seeing as teachers, and you can drop this information in the chat. What are some problems that we're having with adding PDFs to Google Slides? Like, what are some of the concerns you get from parents and your students? So Ms. Byram says they're movable, and when clicked on, they're easily moved or deletable. Exactly. Is anyone else having those same problems or concerns? Students not being able to access the toolbars, type on slides. All right, so then the first thing that we're going to look at is how to turn PDFs into Google Slide ready images. And so that is a very super simple option to do. And so what I want you to do is, if you have a PDF document available, then please go ahead and open that PDF document now. If you don't have a PDF document available, I'm going to put a link to one into the into the chat that you can access and download. So if I go into my Finder and I open up that Oprah Winfrey document, so I see here, like I have a passage, and then I have questions here that I want to ask. So for example, the easiest thing to do is to, and right now I have opened that document in preview. So there are two options. I'm going to show you both of them. If I'm in the preview app, then I can click File, Export, and I can turn that into a JPEG or a PNG. Now, doing that, and that gives me the document as an image. The other option that I have, and it's just, I'm trying to move all these extra windows out of the way, is that if I shrink the document enough so that I can see it on one slide and all I did was just kind of pinch it in, then I can use the screenshot tool to take a screenshot of it. So I'm gonna hit Command-Shift-4, and then I'm gonna highlight the part that I want, and I'm gonna take a screenshot of it. I also want us to think about, though, especially with our younger students. Oh, sorry. So I do that one more time. Can you see the preview ReadWorks document now, everybody? Okay. So I've, normally when it opens up, it's like about this big. All I'm doing is just doing a pinch, zoom in, and I'm gonna hit Command-Shift-4, and then I'm gonna grab the part that I want. But when we're working with younger students, we really don't want to put like a whole page on that Google slide because, so for example, if I go to, I'm going to switch back over to like a blank Google slide. If I add that image into the document, the slide, it's going to be kind of super small for kids to see. So one of the things that I definitely recommend is that instead of doing just one screenshot, that I break the passage, I break the content into smaller sections so that it's larger on the screen for students to be able to see. So in this case, instead of doing like one screenshot per page, I may do two. So Command-Shift-4, and I may just get like the first title part of it. Then I'll do Command-Shift-4 again, and I may get this part of the passage, and then do it again, and I'll get a smaller part of the passage. And then the same thing for the questions. I will screenshot them in smaller chunks so that they are larger on the screen for students to be able to see. So then if I'm adding them to the slide as an image, it's smaller and I can make it larger for students to be able to see. So I do want for everyone, so we're going to take a few minutes because I really want this to be a working session. If you will, like, just I want you to practice doing that screenshot tool in preview on a document. Again, if you need a document, I can definitely share it with you, so that you can see what that process is like. So it will be no different like when we screenshot things from websites and images. It's the same option. You're just turning that PDF into an image so that then in different places, um, if there were blanks or open spaces, then kids could add their text or their content to it. So once you have done that, then in the chat, if you'll just type "got it," and then we'll go on to the next part. And some of you may have already been doing that, which is great. So it looks like pretty much everybody is okay with that piece. If you're not ready, and I think I've told most of you all, I am the daughter of a AME Zion minister. So like in church, he would say, you know, if you're ready, if you got it, say amen. If you don't, say hold on. So if you need a little more time, you can just drop hold on in the chat and I'll wait a few minutes. Or if you need to see something again, let me know. So I think this part for most of you was probably review, which I think is really good. All right, so what I want us to do now is the next part that we're going to look at are what are some problems that we're having adding images to Google Slides. And I think for the same, I think a lot of it is going to be the same issue where their kids are deleting them, they're having, you know, moving them around, they're having, they're struggling with like keeping it the way we want them to have it. If that's the case, you can type yes. If there's something different, just drop in the chat if there are other issues that you're having. All right, so the next part of today's session really talks about how we can add images to the slides background to prevent deletion. And I kind of want you to look at an example before we actually show you how. So again, you see the course code down at the bottom of the screen if you haven't joined my course. And then if you have already joined my course, and I'm going to switch over to on my iPad so that you can see the same thing that students see. All right, so I am I'm getting ready to get inside of my test course, and I just created a folder for us today so that we could pull that Google Drive assignments out of it. So down at the bottom of the home screen in the course, you should see the SJE TSA example. And then there's this e-learning example for this particular session. And that's the document that I want you to open up. So I do want to highlight, even though, and I know we are, you know, like on the tail end of this particular school year, but I think a lot of the practices that we have recommended people putting in place will be beneficial whether we're with students or not. So if you see like in the description part, because a lot of times we leave that blank and that is prime space for us to share information with teachers, with parents and their students. So like in the description part, you see like what the focus of the agenda is, but I want you to go ahead and open up that document, that Google Slide. So if you'll go down to slide 6, on the activity, you'll see that like I added this as an image, but students they can move it around. They can quote unquote accidentally delete it. Sometimes I don't know how accidentally it is at this point. And then also one of the things that we have been sharing, I've been sharing with parents as they call, is that undo button. So if it's an accident and they didn't mean to do it, that undo button will get them back into the place where they need to be. All right, so if you can't see it, I'm gonna go back to Schoology for a minute. So for example, if it says, like if you don't see the Google Slide image pop up right here, then on the right, you click on can't see your document, click here. It probably means that you need to reconnect your Google Drive to Schoology. Okay. I'll take a look at it, maybe hang around a little bit afterwards, Ms. Todd, and you can share your screen and I can kind of see what you're seeing if it's not allowing you to open the folder. So I'm going to go back to the slide. So slide 6 means, so slide 6 is an editable, you know, I just added an image onto the slide deck. I want you to click on slide 7 now and try to do the same thing. See if you can move it around. So slide 7, as much as I tap, I can't move it around. All right. And then if you go to slide 8, it's the same thing. The only thing that can be moved around in this particular slide is the checkbox. Nothing else can be moved. All right. And so what we did here is we created, instead of adding the, like on slide 6, instead of adding this particular, like adding the image and just leaving it that way, what we did was we turned the image into the background of the document. So I'm going to stop the share on my iPad so that you can, I'm going to go back to my computer so that you can see how that works. So if you look at the document that was created, like this particular image, I had, you can, like if you look, you can see how I kind of had already created in the slide because you can see the Darlington County logo. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to open it a little bit more so that it, you know, it covers the entire screen. And then I'm just going to take a screenshot of this particular page. So Command Shift 4, I'm just going to highlight this. And now this turns the passage into an image like we were doing with the PDF portion. So once that's done, I'm going to then just create a slide. So in the template, anytime you try to create a new slide, you have the options for like the review, new learning, and extend another title slide. Like those are available for you to use. There's also a background slide that just has like the notebook paper on it. But then there's also this title-1111, which is just a blank slide. And that's the slide I want. I want the blank slide. So after that, all I do is click background. And so in a lot of cases, like, you know, we may want to change, like in the past, we would just change the color, you know, change the color of the background to make it more appealing for students. But in this case, I'm just going to select choose image. And once I have the option, I can upload something from my computer. If I wanted to take a picture of something, like using my webcam, I could do that. If there was a URL, so these are all of the options. If you already had the photo in your Google Drive, you could do it. In this case, I just took a screenshot, so I know I'm gonna do an upload and I'm gonna browse it. It's in my desktop as a screenshot, open it, and it's done. So now you can tell like this particular, like slide 6, and then after that I would delete the initial slide. But now I can see here, I can't, it's a background image and it's not movable. So if I, on top of that, if I wanted to add additional text here, like a question, I could add it on top. In some cases, I may want to go ahead and, like, if I had other questions, or like if there was a space, one of the things that I've seen a lot of teachers do, I think I actually saw Miss Owens was one of the first people to do it, is that she would turn it a color. And so students knew if they saw like a shape box with a specific color that they were supposed to add something there. So in some cases, you may want to add like everything that students need to do first. Like if there's an add your response here space, if there's a place where you want to add a question or tell them some information, add all of the text, all of the images and everything that you need to do on that slide, and then take your screenshot. Like anything that you don't want deleted, then you would then add all of that first, then take your screenshot and add it to the background as an image. So again, like for this case, there I want them to add something here. I've got both of these. So just as a review, Command Shift 4, I'm going to take that screenshot. I'm going to look at that blank slide and then click background again, choose image, and I'm going to find the one that I need for them to have, and I'm going to add it to the slide. So now this one, which has something that students could move or delete, I'm just going to delete that part off. And then, so in some cases, your younger kids, you may want to go ahead and, add a text box before you import it into as a Google Drive assignments, but also like the process of teaching kids how to add a text box to Google Drive, to a Google Doc or Google Slides is also a really, that's a really important skill set to have as well. Like how to add pictures, how to add text, and that kind of thing. And so like even in these, the one that I uploaded, these are not, like the kids could in actuality to delete them off. So I would, if that's a huge problem with students, and right now, like I said, even the best student that we have ever had, and I tell mamas this, even your best child will try to get away with anything that they think they can get away with now if they know that nobody can really figure out what's happening. So I would honestly probably screenshot like all of my information slides and everything, and then add them as a background image before I pushed it out to students. Because remember, once you push something out into Google Drive assignments, once a student opens that assignment for the first time, even if you make changes on the back end, they're not going to see them in the document. So for example, if you look on your iPad, all of those changes I recently made, they're not going to show up because that document has already been opened. Okay. All right. And so then the last thing that we're going to talk about, and you can see how in a couple of places, like for example, these were just slide 14, 15, 16, 17. I just pulled these from Khan Academy, took a screenshot, and then added them as the background. And then they also, like for slide 18, like they're supposed to add a screenshot of their work if they decided to do the online site. And so everything that I wanted them to be able to do, they can't delete it off, only the place to add it. And then you could also do the same thing here, is screenshot everything except for maybe the check marks, and then add the check marks back on, after you're finished. So any questions about that? And then we'll talk about the last issue that most of us are having. The check marks, I did a Google search. I think Hannah found these. Just I searched for check mark images, and I found one. We found one that we liked, and we just saved it and we added it to the slide. So that was super easy. All right. So any other questions about that part, those two parts, and then we'll talk about the last part. All right. So how many of you, Ms. Wilson, the course code is down at the bottom of the screen. Can you all see yep. So how many of you are getting like emails or calls from parents or students saying that the slides are blank? I am. I'm getting a lot of them. And so like, unfortunately, like because they have to have edit access, there is no way that they can delete their slides. Hannah and Ms. Byram, if you will do me a favor and go into the, well, Hannah might not be in there, but if a few of you will go into the the template, the one that you uploaded from the course, like the example that I pushed out. And if you'll go in and you'll delete a couple of slides for me. And also delete a couple of images like that are on a slide off for me. All right, so if I, as a teacher, now go look into the assignment and I can see, you know, who, again, as a reminder, like who hasn't opened it. If anybody has submitted, that will show up here. No, they don't need internet access to delete the slides. They can delete them without internet access, as long as they have offline. So I'm going to go to Ms. Byram's in progress document. And I can do it honestly directly in here. I am going to open it though, so everybody can kind of see it a little bit better. All right, does everybody see Ms. Byram's slide deck? Is that showing? Always so many questions.
I can't get mine to open up again on my iPad.
What is it saying?
Can't see your document, access denied. And I hit that and it keeps saying access denied.
Okay, let me,
I can go on my desktop and do it.
yeah, that's fine. Or, I mean, like, what if you go directly into slides?
Did you press can't see your document, click here to see if it would?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just kind of like sitting there.
But I don't even see where it's giving me the option to reconnect.
Yeah, maybe you reconnect, Carla, and see.
Because I get the description at the top and then it stops.
Okay, so what I ended up doing, because a lot of times when students see, and I think this is important for us to hear too, if students like Ms. Byram is seeing that access denied option, as a teacher, sometimes the teacher will have an error message in that space, but even if they don't and that child is seeing access denied, then we need for the teacher, and they're the only person that can do it, is to click on can't see your document, click here, and then reconnect your account to Google Drive. So the teacher has to reconnect. Sharon, try now and see if you can access the document.
Okay, hold on a second. Not on my iPad. I can on my laptop though.
Okay, all right.
I'll talk to you. You can, I don't know what's going on.
Troubleshoot through that, yeah. Let's go ahead, if even on your iPad, if you'll delete a couple of slides, delete a couple of images.
Okay, I think I just deleted 2 of them.
Yep.
2 slides.
And I can see them, they're going, you know, right here. All right, so a lot of times, you know, I've had parents to say, the teachers are giving them blank slides, or the teacher is telling me that they're not turning in their work and they turned in everything that I saw, you know, or whatever. So the best way to fix that as a teacher, and this is anybody that has edit access to your document. So anyone that has edit access to the document can access what we call the version history. In order to do that, I'm going to select File over on the left, and then scroll down to Version History, and then I'm going to select See Version History. So what that does is I get a chance to see here any changes that have been made to the document. So for example, if I click on the initial one that was pushed out, I see 19 slides. If I go to the one that Ms. Byram has deleted the slides off on, I see 17 slides. And I know that things are like missing. Like I know as a teacher, slide, the passage is missing, so that's gone. And then the practice passages is missing, so that's gone as well. So as a teacher, and as long as the student still has editing access, because I've talked the parent through that as well, as long as the child still has editing access, then they can go back. I've been shown, like I've even shown Cameron, like when she's made some huge mistakes, she can just go back to the version that is the one, like a lot of times if they've done work in it, I try not to go all the way back to the beginning and restore the version. I try to figure out where they started deleting or where they started making mistakes and go back to like the most recent one that's probably in the best shape. But once, like for example, Sharon had not done any work. She just deleted slides ahead of time before, you know, mama could look over her shoulder. And so I can go in and now over on the left-hand side, right beside the timestamp, I see restore this version, and I can restore it back to its original document. And so in a lot of cases, I have had to show parents, sometimes it's a hard conversation to have, especially from, like, for their babies who, don't make any mistakes. And so I talked to mama the other day and I said, it's probably accidental. They're just really learning how to navigate these slides, but I'm looking and I can see on May 7th at 9:40, Sharon deleted 2 slides. So it gives you the documentation to have conversations with parents, whether, and to be perfectly honest, if they're deleting images off the slide, I can see that as being accidental. It is not accidental when they're deleting slides. I mean, like, they just kind of figured out that's a way that they can get out of work. And if nobody knows how to fix that or solve that problem, then it becomes a battle between the teacher and the parent as to who's telling the truth. So you have that information. So now when a parent calls you, because the other part is, like, they're programmed to call the teacher first. And so, the teacher's saying, and if you're not familiar with it, you're thinking, I don't know what happened. Maybe there is a glitch, because we have had a lot of glitches at the beginning of the process with using Schoology. But now that you know the power of the version history, you can go back in and see exactly what was done. And I'm going to show you, like, this one looks fairly simple. So I'm going to find a document that I know a lot of work has been done in.
And something just to piggyback on what Carla was saying, I just so happened to have really good timing when I visited a school, and a parent, it was like a packet drop-off day, and a parent was there with the child saying the same thing, like, there's something wrong with the slides. And the child, it's kind of hard to tell, especially from our end, because we don't personally know the children, if it's a mistake or if they're doing it on purpose. And you'd be surprised, well, if you're parents, then you wouldn't be surprised. Your kids act a little bit different with you as opposed to with other people. So even if, like, my mom always gets mad at me and says that I ruin my children whenever I come over, because she says they're completely different whenever I'm around. But what I ended up doing that I think helped with that child was, I was like, I want to just watch what you're doing. And so you might need to do a Zoom meeting where the child shares the screen and say, so I want you to complete this slide, like, walk through what you normally do. And she was able to do it. She knew how to do her screenshot of what she was doing and put it back on there. And I said, okay, so now I'm going to show you, like, I walked her through what she would have to press to actually delete it. I said, so you see, it's very easy. If I just click on this image, this delete comes right here. So you have to be really careful not to touch this. And then I showed her where it was. I mean, she obviously already knew, but I think walking through and doing that model of, like, I know, we both know. And then the discussion we had right after that was, do we have to keep doing e-learning for the rest of the year? I said, yes, you do, but you get to get off a couple weeks early with, if you're ahead with your work, if you've caught up, then on the 21st, you actually get off a couple of weeks. It's just funny. So I just wanted to share that I think that talking them through it was helpful.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. And does everyone know how to talk students through how to share, like, if they're doing a Zoom, how to share their how students can share their screen? Because it is not an easy process. I can tell you, as a parent who has been Zooming with her child, like, when we first started, I was like, I don't know what to tell you. So I will, I want to share a couple more things about the version history process, and then we can go back and I'll show that, before we close out today. So, like, here you can see, like, in this case, because this is like my practice document and I use it between Cameron and I, so I can see the different times that, someone has been in and made changes. So, for example, if I go back to April 2nd, I can see what you can see is that when changes are made, normally that slide is highlighted. So it's probably kind of faint for you to see, but on that day, you see how that green is highlighted? All right, and in this case, the green is me, and I can see where that change has been made. Like Cameron is purple. So anywhere that she had gone in and made changes, that's going to be highlighted in purple, if you can see that right there. So that also kind of helps you to see like what changes were made and when. The slide deletion is probably the hardest one because it's like, now you see me, now you don't. And you got to figure out exactly like where that happened. But the version history is very powerful. And like I was telling someone, when we first started using Google Docs with students 7 years ago, like that's how kids typed all their writing because I could keep track of the work that they had done in their version history. And even now you can still do that and still push it out as a Google Drive assignment. So you can still see it in real time, but then you have access to the version history. But I would go in and I would look at things that kids had been working on for weeks and, you know, at least a couple of weeks. And I would get there and I said, there's a sentence. Where's the rest of your work? And they would say, Miss J, I typed a whole page. I don't know what happened to it. And then you go look at version history and you're like, nope. All you did was this. That's all I see. There's just this one thing, you know, or whatever. I can see where you got into the document and I can see where you typed this one sentence and you haven't done anything since then. So the version history is very powerful. Since we have just a few more minutes before we go out, the easiest, like, well, it's kind of hard. I probably will need to make a video to kind of show how, because you're not going to be able to see the controls, I don't think, if I'm sharing my iPad. I'm going to see if I can join this meeting. That share content option in the upper right-hand corner, if students are on iPad, they'll tap screen and then start broadcast. And that's how they share their screen on their iPad. So I'll do that one more time. Share content, screen, and then start broadcast. But you also see there are other options, like depending on like what you're doing in your lesson. They also have the whiteboard option where they can share. So like if you wanted them to show you how to work out a problem or they had the type of response, then that would be an option as well. Everybody good with that part? Let me get out before I break everything. All right. So that's pretty much it for today's session. I'm going to share the slide deck with everybody. We talked about how to turn a PDF into an editable document. And so remember, like after that's an image, then you can, you can add additional text boxes and places and shapes on top of that for students to, to do work. How to add images as a background on Google Slides by like taking a screenshot and then accessing the version history to check for discrepancies. So those are things that at this point we really need for, like these three things really need to be handled on the school side, the teacher side. And then after that, you can, like if that doesn't work, then you can push that out. Hannah's gonna drop the sign in just a minute. So remember, we have a few minutes before we close out. I will also add probably some directions or some little quick videos. The GIFs in each of the images on the slide deck also kind of give an overview of how to do that particular topic that we were talking about, like how to take a screenshot, how to add a background image. So that's available as well. We have a few minutes before we'll close that lunch and learn session. So if you want to attend our lunch and learn session today, you have some time to do that, and I will drop that link in right quick. And then the other part that I wanted to share that I lost for just a minute. So I would like for everybody to practice those three things that we've talked about today. So you can just kind of create a blank slide, work on adding an image as a background, creating a PDF as an image, checking out the version history, especially for some of the parents and students that have had concerns, and then just kind of share that with us. The other thing that we do need to make sure that everyone shares is their Schoology Google Drive assignments folder, which is in Google Drive. So for example, if you go to your Google Drive and in the search bar, you type Schoology Google Drive assignments. For you, just one folder will pop up. For me, about 700 folders will pop up. But it's that Schoology Google Drive assignments folder. And that's from the information that Ms. Davis sent out on April 6th. So you should give all of CIA and also your school leadership view only access. Now, Ms. Byram did ask, can she see, like if they share their folder with her, can she see? You may want to give Ms. Byram and Mr. Gearhart, and I don't even mind if you, like Hannah and I, editing access, because the only way that you can see version history is if you have edit access. So students, like once they submit and their information turns into comment, then they no longer have access to their version history either, or anyone that has view only access. So you may want to give like your school support leadership, and like I said, if you want to give it to Hannah and I as well, editing access to that folder. So you don't even have to like double click and open the folder. If you just click on the folder and then click on the share button over here on the right, and then type in the names of the people that were listed in that video that Ms. Davis sent out on April 6th. And the video is also available on the e-learning website. All right, any questions about anything that we've talked about today? So the Lunch and Learn link is in there. Hannah just added the sign-in link. So please make sure you sign in, because this is the information that we're going to be sharing with your school leadership. So like what we've kind of been doing lately is just kind of as directors or coordinators go into courses and have questions, then we kind of, or the information that we get, maybe from phone calls from the help desk for parents and students, then we kind of figure out how to best support, like where that's happening and how we can best support those who need that information. So if there's something that we didn't talk about today that you still need help with, please feel free to send myself or Hannah a message, or just let Ms. Byram or Mr. Gearhart or Dr. Kinlaw or Ms. Bridgman know, and they can get in contact with us and we can set up something. I think the other part that we also have to think about is that even though when we go back to school, number one, it will we don't know what that will look like. So I think I want us to make sure that we don't have the mindset is that once after e-learning is over, I can go back in my classroom and do it the way that I've been doing it. We just don't think that's going to be possible anymore. In addition, the district, has been accepted into the third pilot of the South Carolina Education Oversight Committee's e-learning plan, which is what we were kind of planning for in the beginning before the pandemic started. So the tools and the resources and the things that we're doing now will be helpful if we're out for, hopefully not another pandemic, but if we're out for, inclement weather or anything like that. So we hope these things have been beneficial and that we can continue some of these practices even when we get back in the traditional classroom. All right, if nobody has any other questions or concerns, Hannah and I will hang out for a little while, and the rest of you have a great morning. Bye, thanks.